Perfect. So yeah, welcome to class. Welcome to live class. Welcome to live Spanish class. We're on YouTube now. The reason we're on YouTube is because, as I said before, some of you pointed out on Instagram, when I'm live, it's all good and great. However, it's not good when you try to watch the class back. When you're trying to either you're studying or you miss the class when it happened live, and you're trying to catch up later. It's not very convenient to move, fast forward, move back, and all that. It's not very good for you. So I heard you. I listened to you guys. These classes are for you. So if something is not working for you, I look to improve it. I look to make it better for you. I think YouTube is going to be better for everyone. I think it just makes it easier for you when you want to study, when you want to watch the class back. You can pause. You can, it's easier. It's better. So that's why we're on YouTube. Also, another thing is the reason why I'm super late. Well, first, my bus was delayed. No news there. My bus is delayed all the time, unfortunately. And I'm coming back from work, so it's not like I can leave earlier. But the second reason is because I'm having to use my computer. I'm live streaming from my computer now, not from my phone, because the phone refuses to use this format and it just wants to be vertical. I don't get it. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're here. Let's see. Is there anyone online? I see Andrea. Hola, Andrea. ¿Cómo estás? I see Rody over there. So you can hear me. That's great. That's important. We have a better mic now. So hopefully you hear me better than before in my other live streams. But anyways, let's begin. Today's topic is con. Today we're going to be learning con. So let's hold on. Let's write what I always like to write. Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. UK. Somebody else also told me that I write too small and it's really hard to read what I'm writing. So I'm going to try to remember that today. I'm going to try to write a little bit bigger. I guess that's not a great start. That's very small. But I'll try to write bigger so you can see better what I'm writing, okay? So yeah, let's do this. Today's topic is, and you see, here we go again. I'm writing too small already. So the topic of today is con. The word con, which in English obviously means with, right? With. Let's change colors. Let's use black for Spanish and red for when we translate. I like that more because I think you might see it more easily from over there. So that is the topic. The topic is con or with. Now, there is, let me see, 4 main uses of this. Like I said in the last class we had last week, I was telling you guys that when we're learning Spanish, when we're learning any language, but when you're learning Spanish, you need to focus on the way in which the words are used in Spanish, not just the translation of it. Because if you focus on just the translation, well, you might still find like, okay, but I don't fully understand how to use it. I don't fully get how to say things. Hold on a second. My glasses are a bit dirty and that's bothering me. By the way, a great advantage of now using YouTube to live stream on my computer is that I can see your text. I can see your messages. So if you text on the chat, if you message on the live chat, I can see it now. So that's a great improvement. I can reply to you more easily if you ask questions or if you answer my questions, right? So with con, we're going to go over the 4 different uses that we can give it, right? The 4 different... Hola, mi amigo. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Okay, so the 4 different uses that we can give it. We're going to do it like always. First, I explain in English. First, I'll explain it in Spanish, and then I'll go over it again in English just to make sure everybody understands. So, comencemos. El primer uso de con. El primer uso se llama acompañamiento. No. Wrong color. Quería usar el negro. El primer uso se llama acompañamiento. Cuando queremos expresar acompañamiento, cuando queremos expresar que algo va con algo más o que alguien va con algo, entonces utilizamos con. Por ejemplo, la oración voy al cine con mi hermana. Voy al cine con mi hermana. Watch me regretting the fact that I stuck this whiteboard this way, by the way, if you're wondering why is it stuck this way and not that way. Because I thought we were going to be live streaming always vertical, and now we're not. So now my whiteboard is this way. I might rip it off and stick it the other way, but I might have to buy a new one if I do that. So I haven't done it yet. But we'll see. If it doesn't bother you too much, guys, we'll keep it this way. Otherwise, I might have to rip it off and get another one. So, back to the topic. Acompañamiento. Voy al cine con mi hermana. So, cuando utilizamos cuando utilizamos este método, este uso de con, tenemos que pensar en la pregunta ¿con quién? Esa es la respuesta a esa pregunta. Obviamente, como estamos aprendiendo desde el inglés, lo tenemos que preguntar en inglés. Entonces, en inglés preguntamos with whom. Cuando tenemos esta pregunta, with whom, entonces sabemos que se necesita usar con. Usamos con cuando la oración, la expresión, lo que queremos decir, la idea, calza a la pregunta with whom. ¿Ok? Entonces, hay una acción. Voy, el verbo ir. Voy al cine with whom? Mi hermana. Entonces usamos con. ¿Ok? Voy al cine con mi hermana. Right. Let's recap in English. Let's see if you understand. Accompaniment. That's a mouthful of a word in English. Accompaniment, meaning when we want to express that we're doing something with someone, right? We're going somewhere, for example, with somebody. So then we use con. This is the most basic one, is the easiest one. It's probably the one you already know, probably the one you've already seen before. And it simply is based on the fact that the action of the sentence, the verb of the sentence, responds to the question with whom. So when you ask the verb with whom, and it matches, and the answer is logical, then we know that we have to use con, right? So voy is the action here. Voy, to go. I go, right? It's the verb to go, which is ir in Spanish, right? Let's quickly look at that. Voy comes from ir, right? It's conjugated in the first person, simple present. Yo voy, right? But as always in Spanish, we don't have to say yo, so we simply say voy, right? Voy al cine. I go to the movies. Voy al cine. I go to the movies. With whom? Mi hermana. Entonces, so we use con. With whom? Mi hermana. So then we know that we use con mi hermana. This one is fairly simple. It's easy to understand, not only because it's very obvious, but also because in English it's the same, right? I go to the movies with my sister. So the translation works. It's a word-to-word translation. So in that case, it's not that complicated. You could even say, okay, why are we explaining this? This is pretty obvious. Which, yeah, it can be, but there are other uses that are not so obvious. And that's why we always want to make sure that we understand and know what are the different use cases for the word we're learning in Spanish, not just its translation from English. Because we could go over how with is used in English, and it will not 100% always match with con. That's why we need to learn the use of it in Spanish, okay? Let's look at use number 2. Wait, I'll step over to the side so you can take a quick screenshot of this if you're taking your notes or if you're trying to take screenshots so you can learn it later. There you go. Take a screenshot. Perfecto. We carry on. I just realized the light to light me up is reflecting on the whiteboard. Hope that's not a problem for you guys. I'll try to steer clear of that. Maybe if I point it in this direction. No, never mind. Never mind. There is a little bit further then. Why is it so hard to have a setup the way I want it? I think it's because I'm too obsessive with details. That might be, maybe it's a me problem. Maybe the setup is fine and I'm the problem. I just obsess over the little details. I don't know. I'm just, you know me, guys. I love teaching. This is my passion. This is what I love doing. So I want it to be perfect for you guys. So I'm always obsessing over little things like, ooh, the audio, or the light, or the video, or this, or that. Anyways, carry on. Moving on. Punto número 2, uso número 2. Vamos a ver. Este se trata de el medio a través de que logramos algo. Por ejemplo, vamos a ver. El medio. El medio a través del que vamos a lograr algo, o a través del que vamos a intentar lograr algo. Entonces, por ejemplo, decimos, cortó. A ver. Cortó, sí, cortó. El pan con un cuchillo. I think I'm doing pretty well with the writing bigger on the board so you can see better. Medio. Cortó el pan con un cuchillo. ¿Cuál es la respuesta? ¿Cuál es la pregunta que nos da una indicación a este? La pregunta en este caso sería, with what? With what? Entonces, le preguntamos a la acción, le preguntamos al verbo, le preguntamos with what. Cortó o cortó el pan. Cortó el pan. With what? Un cuchillo. Okay. Then we use con. Okay. Esta se trata, casi olvido, empiezo a hablar en inglés. Esta se trata de con qué estamos haciendo algo. Hay una acción. La acción es cortar el pan. En este caso está en pasado, cortó el pan en pasado, pero el punto es que la acción se completó, se llevó a cabo utilizando esto. Como utilizamos esto para cumplir esta acción, entonces decimos con. Porque esto fue lo que se utilizó para lograr esta acción. Por eso se usa con. ¿Ok? Vamos a ver. Veámoslo en inglés. Creo que está bastante sencilla. Medio. Medio, well, that means, as in like means to an end. The means by which you accomplish something, you achieve something. In this case, the means by which you accomplish the action of the sentence, of the statement. There is an action, there is a verb, right? Cortó, cut, right? To cut in present, cut in the past. Cortó. So, cortó, well, let's first look at what cortó means, just in case you haven't come across that verb before. Cortó comes from the verb cortar, which means to cut. Right? Cortar. In the past tense of the third person, meaning he or she, él cortó. Él cortó. He cut. Past pretérito simple or simple past of Spanish, third person of cortar. Él cortó. He cut. Cortó, and once again, same thing. Remember, always, we don't have to use the pronoun. We can leave it aside. We can leave that because we know from the verb who is the main subject of the sentence, who is the one who did the action. We know that. We don't need to write it. That's why. Okay? So, cortó. Let me see. Corté. Corté, that would be if it was about myself, right? So, cortó is he. Él cortó. If it's yo corté. Very good, Andrea. Muy bien. Exacto. Right? So, cortó el pan. He cut the bread. El pan means bread. It doesn't mean a frying pan. It means bread. Cortó el pan con un cuchillo. Un cuchillo, a knife. Right? A knife. Cuchillo means knife. So, he cut the bread with a knife. Again, in this case, it matches. The translation in English would be the same. We would say, he cut the bread with a knife. Great that it matches, but again, it won't always. So that's why we need to learn the different uses, the different cases. Cortó el pan con un cuchillo. Fairly simple, right? You ask yourself, If in my sentence I am talking about an action and right after I'm talking about what was used to complete that action, then the way you link these two is with con, right? Con is essentially a preposition. Prepositions are used to connect a main statement and a supporting, right? There is a main statement, an independent clause, an independent sentence that stands by itself. Cortó el pan. That's a perfect sentence of its own. Con un cuchillo. Un cuchillo. It's not a statement. It's not a sentence. It's just a word, right? So for that reason, these needs to be linked to these. How it links? Well, we link with prepositions. How do we know which preposition to use? Do we use con? Do we use en? Do we use de? Do we use por or para? How do we know? Well, this is how we know. If the action that we speak of was here and the following statement is what was used to complete that action, then we use con. Okay? Fairly simple. Cortó el pan con un cuchillo. He cut the bread with the knife. Okay? Muy bien. This is a bit of an intermediate level lesson, I would say. Maybe, yeah, beginner to intermediate. I think most beginners would already know all of this. However, the way in which we're deconstructing, we're looking at every little part of it. That's why it's important. Okay? Try to make your own examples. Try to make your own sample sentences of how to use them with each one of these cases, right? I see some examples here. Yo como pasta con tenedor. Con tenedor, sí. Perfecto. Muy bien. Muy buen ejemplo, Andrea. Muchas gracias. Very good. That's a great example, Andrea. I'm going to write it here. I like that. You know what? Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should be doing that. I give you my example, I give you the explanation, and then you guys write your own sample sentences so that I can give you some feedback. This one's perfect. Yo como. So what did Andrea say? Andrea said, yo como pasta con tenedor. Yo como pasta con tenedor. Let's look at this. Como, the verb to eat. I eat. Yo como pasta. Pasta is pasta. Easy. Con, with tenedor, with a fork. Tenedor. So that's perfect, right? We're talking about an action, and then we're saying with what utensil that action was completed. What did we use in order to achieve that action? Well, a fork. So then we link them with con. Perfect example. Muy bien. Very good. Well done. Again, remember, this is optional, right? It's optional. It doesn't mean it's wrong if you say it. Like, there's nothing wrong with this sentence. You can say yo como pasta con tenedor. However, if you wanted to sound a bit more natural, I would say, yeah, maybe a bit more natural, then it would be more common to say como pasta con tenedor. Okay? Vamos a ver otro ejemplo. ¿Por qué no con un tenedor? Esa es una muy buena pregunta. ¿Por qué decimos yo como pasta con tenedor y no con un tenedor? No reason. There is no reason. You could say both. You could say both. A ver, podríamos decir los dos. Los dos están correctos. Las dos oraciones son correctas. Vamos a ver. Rudy, te voy a explicar primero en español, después en inglés por aquello. I'm going to answer the question first in Spanish, then in English. You know how it works. You know how it works. So, yo como pasta con un tenedor. Yo como pasta con un tenedor. Ok. ¿Cuál es la diferencia? Hay una diferencia. ¿Esta está bien? Sí. ¿Esta está bien? También. Ambas están bien. Ambas son correctas. Sin embargo, hay una diferencia muy pequeña, muy sutil. Hay una diferencia. En esta, estamos hablando en general. En general. La pregunta es, ¿con qué comes pasta? ¿Con tenedor o con cuchara o con palillos chinos? Con tenedor. Ok. Estamos hablando en general. Es una pregunta de no en este momento, no este día, no este tenedor, sino en general, ¿con qué comes pasta? Con tenedor. ¿Ok? Por eso no se utiliza el artículo un, porque estamos hablando en general. Entonces, si estamos hablando en general, simplemente estamos diciendo que generalmente comemos pasta con tenedor, se dice sin un. ¿Ok? En el ejemplo siguiente y en el ejemplo anterior que les di yo, el ejemplo anterior era cortó el pan con un cuchillo. ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre esa oración y esta? O esta y esta. Bueno, que no estamos hablando en general. Estamos hablando muy específicamente de una situación en particular, de un tenedor en particular incluso. Yo como pasta con un tenedor suena más como que estamos en este momento describiendo con un tenedor, con este tenedor. Entonces, depende de cuál situación sea mejor para lo que estás diciendo. Si estás hablando en general, es probable que esto sea mejor. En mi ejemplo, cortó el pan con un cuchillo. Cortó está en pasado, es decir, no estamos hablando en general. Estoy describiendo una acción que ya ocurrió en el pasado, en un momento específico. Entonces digo un cuchillo, porque no estamos hablando de generalmente corto el pan con cuchillo. No, estamos diciendo en aquel momento, ayer o hoy en la mañana o hace 2 días, él cortó el pan con un cuchillo. En ese momento estamos hablando de una situación específica. Este también. Este querría decir un tenedor, sería una situación muy específica. Creo que generalmente este es más común que este, con el ejemplo de tenedor y pasta, creo, ¿no? Ok. Rudy, ¿claro con la respuesta? ¿Entendiste esta respuesta? Let's do it in English now for anyone who's watching and is not able to understand the whole thing in Spanish. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. And remember, I keep saying this, but I will continue to say it. If you watch these videos and you understand, you understand me in English, obviously, but you don't understand all the explanations in Spanish because you're a complete beginner or because you're a beginner, but you're not, your listening isn't as good or you just lack the vocabulary to understand all the things I'm saying, don't worry. Don't click off. Don't think this isn't for you. The reason I do it that way is because it's good for you to challenge yourself to listen to the whole thing in Spanish. Even if you don't grab the whole thing, even if you don't understand the whole thing, your subconscious is working. You're learning, you're processing, and that's really good for you. You're building vocabulary. And then you listen to the explanation in English, and then you can compare and see how much you actually understood. What did you get? What didn't you get? Which words were actually throwing you off? So that's why it's very important that even if you don't understand the whole thing in Spanish, you still listen to the whole thing. You still watch, you still pay attention. Okay, so in English, what's the difference? So someone's asking us here, why do we say con tenedor and not con un tenedor, right? Why are we not using an article? Here we don't have an article, here we do. So why? Why don't we do that? Okay, well, the answer is, first of all, is there anything wrong with either of these two sentences? And the answer is no. This one's correct, and this one's correct, and so is this one. They're both correct, right? There are no mistakes in these sentences per se. There are no issues there. However, there is a difference in the meaning that they carry, in the meaning that they convey. And that's where, again, that's where the beauty and the attention has to be when it comes to learning Spanish. You need to pay attention to the meaning you're trying to convey, the meaning you're trying to send over. Your meaning needs to come across from how exactly you want it. Yo como pasta con tenedor without the article is a very general statement, is a broad statement. We're speaking generally, broadly speaking. I eat pasta with a fork. Now, in English, even in the broad general sense of saying, I eat pasta with fork, it is okay to say I eat pasta with a fork. And it doesn't change the meaning that much. That's why we're talking about in Spanish. We're not translating it because that's where you could get confused. That might even be why the question has, come up, because you're thinking about it in your head in English and you're like, hold up. Well, in English, I would say, I eat pasta with a fork in general. And I could also say, in general, I eat pasta with fork. That one even sounds a bit weird. So then what gives? Well, that's it. In Spanish, without it is general, and with it's very specific. So when we say, let's say the example I gave you earlier, cortó el pan con un cuchillo. He cut the bread with a knife. That one's not general. That's not a general broad statement. We're not talking about how you like to do things. We're not talking about how you usually prefer to cut your bread. We're saying he cut the bread with a knife. We're talking about a very particular moment in the past when this already happened. We are describing something that has happened already. So we're not being broad, we're not being general, we're being very, very specific. For that reason, then we need an article, and we say un cuchillo, because we're talking about a particular moment in time when it happened, and he cut the bread with a particular knife, not just knives in general. Similarly here, you need to ask yourself, what am I trying to say? Am I describing a very particular moment in which I ate my pasta with a fork? Or am I just talking in general, where I want to say that when I eat pasta, I would be doing it with a fork? Right? That's the big thing. That's the big difference. And that's where the emphasis has to be. General, specific. And that's it. Okay, hope that answers your question. Who was it that asked the question? Rudy, Rody? Not sure how to read your name. Is it Rody? I think it's Rody, yes. Okay. Muy bien. Very good question. Very good examples. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, guys, for the examples. Okay. Sí, entiendo. Perfecto. Gracias. Muy bien. Ok, continuemos. Tenemos dos usos más. And we're running out of time. We have two more uses. What time is it? Oh my days, we are running out of time. I know I started late, but unfortunately I can't keep going until I complete the full hour of today's class because I still have other things to do. My day is far from finished. My day is far from over. It's 9:30. It's 9:20. No, what time is it? 10:20 p.m. and I am so not done with all the things I need to do today. So I can't extend myself, I'm afraid. Okay. The use number 3. Again, we're going to do it in Spanish then in English. La manera, la forma en que hacemos algo. En este caso, en inglés sería de la pregunta how. ¿Cómo? How. Vamos a ver el ejemplo. Lo hizo con cuidado. Lo hizo con cuidado. Lo hizo con cuidado. Right. Lo hizo con cuidado. A ver, estamos hablando de una acción nuevamente. Ojo que la preposición con parece que la usamos siempre con. La usamos al lado de acciones. Es muy común. Es donde más se usa con acciones. Entonces, la acción lo hizo. Cuidado. How. ¿De qué manera fue que completó esta acción? Con cuidado. Entonces, por eso utilizamos con, porque responde a la pregunta how. How did he do it? ¿Cómo lo hizo? Con cuidado. There you go. Ok. Está sencilla. Creo que está sencilla. Creo que no es muy difícil. Vamos a ver en inglés. So what does this one mean? This one is about the way in which something was done, the way in which something was achieved. The action, how was it done? How, right? There's an action. We ask how. How did he do it? Lo hizo. He did it. How did he do it? Carefully. Oh, then we connect them with con. Con cuidado. So carefully. Another way to think about this one is, and I think this is a lot easier to think about it like that, is that essentially we use con when we want to connect an action with an adverb that describes that action, right? That's a verb, that's an adverb. Wait. Yes, an adverb. I have to check my notes, double check, make sure I'm not wrong. I'm tired, so we can't fully rely on this one. Yes, it's an adverb, right? If you don't know what an adverb is, if you're not sure what an adverb is, well, we have adjectives, right? We have adjectives, and adjectives usually would describe nouns, right? So if we have house is a noun, and an adjective could be big, the big house. So big is an adjective because it is describing a noun, which is the house. It is giving us further information, more information about the noun. Well, an adverb does the same thing. An adverb does the job that the adjective does for the noun, the adverb does for the verb. That's why it's in the name. Adverb. It adds to the verb. Right? It's right there. It's easy to remember like that. So an adverb is just basically telling us how an action was done. It's giving us more information about it. Whenever you have an adverb, you connect them with con. That's why. And in English, it's very easy. I love that about English. English has this beautiful thing that is very easy to identify adverbs because they usually end in li. Carefully. He did it carefully. Right? Now, this, I think, is the first moment in which it becomes rather important to why we're learning the use cases of con rather than just translating it as with. Because tell me, what's the translation of this in English? How do we translate this in English? I already said it a few times, but you tell me, how do we translate this in English? Lo hizo con cuidado. What's the translation of this in English? Because if you translate it, you will realize that it no longer matches with. I mean, it can, but it doesn't have to. And if anything, the more common way to say it in English would be the way that doesn't use with. Yo seguiré con atención. Perfecto. Muy bien. That's another example of how to use it. That's another example. Oh, wait. If I stand over here. Oh, the light looks better. On the whiteboard, I mean. Cool. Wait. Oh, it's not yo, it's te. Te seguiré con atención. Muy bien. Excelente. Muy buen ejemplo. So how do we translate this? Well, I'll tell you. The translation of this in English would be, he did it carefully. Let's say we're talking about, I don't know, how someone painted a vase, or how someone made a drawing. I don't know, whatever it could be. But he did it carefully. Where's the with in here? There's no with, you see? That's why we need to learn not just what this word translates to in English. Yeah, con translates to with. Okay, great. Well, then what about this? What happened there? There's no with in English, but we do have con in Spanish. So what gives? Well, like I said, we can't always rely on just translating the words. We also need to learn how are they used in Spanish, not just how are they translated from English. And this is a very good example of that. We could obviously make it fit. We could make it work. We could say he did it with care. He did it with care. But honestly speaking, who says that in English? People don't talk like that in English. People wouldn't go around saying, oh, he did it with care. No, people say he did it carefully. You could, right? But that's not what's natural. And that's the problem. If that's not what's natural, and this is what you first think of in English, when you try to translate it, then you find yourself lost because you're going to be like, lo hizo, cuidado, eh? Or and you'll be like, what? Right? So that's that. Hold on, my phone's ringing. What's my phone ringing? My friend's calling me. I'll call him back later. Okay, muy bien. Last one, guys. We're almost out of time. Last use is posesión o características. Características. Posesión o características. A ver. El ejemplo sería el ejemplo sería el niño con gafas. El niño con gafas es mi primo. El niño con gafas es mi primo. Entonces, estamos hablando de Posesión o características. El niño con gafas. El niño con gafas. Gafas, ¿verdad? Estamos diciendo, podemos decir que sería que las gafas pertenecen al niño, entonces ahí hay posesión, o podemos decir que es una característica, estamos describiendo una característica física de la apariencia del niño. El niño tiene gafas, el niño con gafas. Entonces podemos decir, el niño con gafas es mi primo. Y por eso utilizamos con en este caso en particular. Entonces vamos a ver. En inglés, en English. El niño, the kid, the child, the boy, con gafas, with glasses, es mi primo, is my, not nephew, was what? Cousin, is my cousin. So the kid with glasses is my cousin. Again, this one matches with if you wanted to match it, but it doesn't have to. So that's why, again, it's important. Also, if you pay attention, we said posesión, and con is a preposition. What else is a preposition? We learned it last week. Last week we learned de and para, right? De and para are also prepositions in Spanish. And we also said that de is used for possession. So we could say el niño de gafas. And that's correct. We could, not both of them, either or, you choose. When you say con de, we say con or de. El niño con gafas o el niño de gafas. Beautiful. This is why we learn the uses of them, not just the translations, because now we know, look at that. That one can also work. So now we could say, and if you run into this, if you see somebody say, hey, el niño de gafas, or you see somebody else say, el niño con gafas, you don't have to ask yourself, what's the difference? Why are they saying con or de? Why sometimes this, why sometimes that? In this one, there is no reason why. It's just a preference. You can pick because they both work for the same circumstance, for the same use. They're both prepositions, which means they're both used to connect sentences, which also means that as long as they're both qualified to do the same job, meaning to describe possession or characteristics, you can use them interchangeably. And that's what we can do here. Con or de. Doesn't matter. El niño con gorra or el niño de gorra, right? Now, con is more commonly used when we're talking about things we wear. When you're talking about, things you put on yourself, we use con more commonly, but you can use de. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. All right? There you go. So that is how we use con in Spanish. There are more uses, of course, and actually next class I'm going to tell you about, we've run out of time today already, but next time we're going to talk about idiomatic expressions. I forgot the name. Idiomatic expressions. Expressions that don't necessarily translate word by word, and that if you translate them, don't make much sense, but are simply just used that way, the whole phrase. And the whole phrase means something that if you know each word, you wouldn't understand that meaning out of that phrase. Those are idiomatic expressions, right? Expressions that have kind of their own meaning and they're just used that way. So that's it for today. I think we finished. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Yo como mi pan con mantequilla. Muy bien. Conduzca con cuidado. Perfecto. Muy buenos ejemplos. Right. So for this week's homework, by the way, somebody was asking me where should you do your homework? On my Instagram or on the school group. Do it on the school group. You know how the school group has a tab called Tarea, homework? Do it there. Do it there, because on Instagram, maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't see it. Like Instagram is mostly just social media for me. Whereas in the school group is the one that I use for like actually, helping you guys and studying with you. So I know I'm not there a lot because I'm too busy. But if you do the homework, do it there. And, I'll find the time at some point and I'll go back and I'll try to review and I'll try to give you some feedback on that. Okay? Right. Let's see. Any other questions? Well, somebody just came and left some lovely emojis. How mature of you. Very nice. I think that's it for today. Yeah. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Nos vemos la próxima, amigos, y buenas noches. Hasta luego. Chao. Nos vemos la próxima. Buenas noches.